Thank you for tuning in to the channel. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like the material. Today we will take a look at some of the chaos that's happening in the XJW community. It seems that some people are going off the deep end. First, we'll start with Mark O'Donnell's resignation letter. Let's look at something that he said, the final point. Certain additional allegations against Mr. Evans has surfaced since January 30th that are false and uncorroborated, and have caused great distress to Mr. Evans' immediate family. I condemn any claims that were made with malicious and slanderous intent and without substantiation. So the question arises, what are some of these claims that are floating throughout the community? Let's have a look. The other day I saw this video that caught my attention.
James Lloyd Evans. The amount of information we now have has now been handed into the police. I strongly recommend you get your backside down to a UK police station and come clean. It has to be done. So do the right thing and own up to what you've done. That's all I've got to say on the matter. Let's go.
This gentleman appears to be at the police station, and he's admonishing Lloyd to come and turn himself in. It also appears that he has information in a blue folder. What is that information? Well, that's what everyone is trying to figure out. I wasn't going to really speak on this matter until I saw this post from Lloyd himself. Notice what Lloyd said yesterday, February the 16th. He says, for anyone who needs to hear it, there is no Marco, there is no Becca. The evidence currently being circulated is completely fabricated. This is the biggest case of cyberbullying I've ever experienced, and I will not be beaten by it. I was able to find Marco's statement, alleged statement, on Twitter under the Vast Apostate Hour, so let's have a look at it.
I am related to the Croatian family of Lloyd Evans by marriage. I have lived in Sisak for most of my adult life, but after last year's earthquake, there was some damage to my home, and I do not live there at the moment. I am personally acquainted with Lloyd Evans, his wife and her parents. I also know many of the people who go to the local Church of Jehovah's Witnesses that they attended, either through my line of work or from everyday life. I have never been a Jehovah's Witness, but my wife had some association. I haven't spoken to either Lloyd or his wife since shortly after I had made a comment on a Facebook group in 2017 about his troubled history. These new revelations regarding him going to Thailand and using prostitutes is new to me. I won't have any comment about them, since I did not know about it and have only found out about it on the internet. What I have to say is culled from personal recollections, discussions with his wife, my wife, and to a lesser extent, Lloyd himself. My English is not completely fluent, as I have not been formally schooled in the language, and I have been assisted in the second draft to correct grammatical mistakes and placing them in a way that is easier to understand. I also asked for information from former Jehovah's Witnesses regarding their practices in order to better understand and place into perspective. I have been contacted by many concerned former Jehovah's Witnesses online, some of whom were close to Lloyd, and asked for information. I have been reticent to do so due to the harassment I got online and in real life last time. This time I am far enough away from him that I do not fear the repercussions, at least from a real life aspect. I do know that he has a lot of supporters online who will do anything to discredit and troll information that is negative to him. Many have already noticed that. I realize that there is the burden of proof that everyone seeks from me. They ask for pictures, text messages, emails, and even explicit photos. I want to be clear that I possess none of these. I was also asked to report this to the police again. I only know what was told or shown to me. I did make an attempt to contact UK police in 2017, but was unsuccessful in getting this investigated. The period in time that I am going to speak about are the years of 2007 to 2014, which is roughly the period of their wedding to about the time Lloyd had gone full-time into his work with former Jehovah's Witnesses. Should you choose not to believe me, I understand. Had I have known that much of the information I was provided at the time would be important to have a documentation of over a decade later, I would have done more than just look at it or nod my head and not ask questions. So take what I tell you as a witness to the character of Lloyd Evans, much of which you already know from first-hand knowledge. I am also concerned about the current situation of his wife, and I am trying hard not to directly implicate her into much of this. For her protection, Lloyd was married in Croatia in 2007. It was on the coast, and many were invited, including my wife. We were not married yet, so I did not attend the news round the town, and especially in the family was initially positive. It was sad to see such a well-respected young woman leave permanently for the UK, but the opportunities for her were great. I wish them nothing but good fortune. By the time 2007 was nearing a close, it was clear there were a lot of dark issues with Lloyd. He was an overbearing husband and had a clear idea as to how his wife should treat him and her position in the household. Small things he made huge issues out of and was always onto his wife for things he thought she meant or did. He also had rules about his own privacy, which he berated her for. Lloyd was active on sex dating online sites, which were suited for people looking for sex, not relationships. He felt this absolved him, and it wasn't truly cheating, but working out his desires and fantasies. His wife found out about this with browser history and on his texts which he had on a second phone. His online names were, as I can recall, the Gobbler and the Pussy Destroyer. I had seen some of his chats as they were forwarded to my wife in confidence back in 2007 to 2008. They were very animated, and he had a fetish where the girls addressed him by daddy and he called them daughter. This pattern was established. Lloyd got angry when caught with inconvenient information and blamed his wife for not keeping it in the family where it could be solved by his reasoning. But as a foreign woman in a strange country with a man she had barely known, I hope you can understand why she had reached out and asked for counsel. After this, Lloyd became more careful in his activities, but not careful enough. In 2008 he had moved his family to Bramhill Church of Jehovah's Witnesses and become appointed as an elder. It was explained to me he had become sure of himself and relished in his new power. He took it upon himself to endear him to many in the congregation. He took the lead with youths and was very interested in their well being. The problem with his online activities continued. Lloyd often waited for his wife to leave for work to go back on the chat site. Suspicion was aroused and sexts were found on his phone of a graphic nature. He has a nose which is very protruding, and he liked to fantasize about his nose being able to stimulate a woman while pleasuring orally. So they could meet at her home. A call was made to the number and a young girl answered. Once she found out this was not Lloyd, she was upset and asked to please not inform her parents. She was 14 years old. Bank records were examined and many of his transactions were in Wales. Lloyd was in a downward spiral. He was drinking heavily and looked weary. He was up all night secretly chatting when he thought his wife was sleeping and had many different chat relationships going. The very next day another sext was found and the decision was made to confess to elders, but there was a problem with one of the elders there who was suspicious of his actions around young children. At Lloyd's insistence, they were to hold back on the confession and move back and establish themselves at their old Wilmslow church. His father was an elder there and he still had a good reputation. He quickly resigned as an elder soon after the move and thought he could just write it down on paper and move to Croatia. A series of judicial committees were set up which asked for details. Lloyd felt his confession, he wrote, should be enough and demanded privacy. He felt since his father was an elder there he would fully protect him. This turned out to be incorrect, and it was the beginning his fallout with his father. What his father did do for him was advocate that relocation to Croatia would do him well, and in the end he was not disfellowshipped. Both parties were relieved to be in Croatia after all of that. I met Lloyd for the first time, and he told me how wonderful this country was and had many ambitious plans for establishing himself here. Since I spoke better English than he spoke Croatian, we spoke in English. He looked to me like a man who had just went through a huge crisis he did not know that I knew all about. the crisis and his actions which led to it. At or about 2011, Lloyd was serious about quitting Jehovah's Witnesses. I am not sure how the information was relayed to the Croatian Jehovah's Witnesses church about his problems in the UK, but I doubt it was from his wife. It had become common knowledge round the Jehovah's Witnesses that he had been unfaithful to her. The initial optimism about having a member overseas turned into suspicion. Lloyd picked up on that, and I believe it was a factor in him wanting to leave the religion quietly. By the end of 2013 everything started to reach its climax. His wife had recently left the religion and was expecting their first child. Lloyd was adamant about doing a public disassociation from the religion. His wife was not completely in agreement with this decision. Though she had genuinely left, it was not the kind of exit she sought and was compelled to author a letter of resignation. She preferred to wait after the baby came. But Lloyd was more interested in making a good video and drawing attention to himself. One of the elders of Jehovah's Witnesses was a client of mine and I had known him personally for some time. It was during one of my visits to service his home that he asked me what I knew about Lloyd Evans. He stated there were a lot of stories circulating about him and wanted to know what I had heard, if anything, since I was related to his wife's family. I asked him what they knew, and he said, and I will never forget it, everything. The file on Mr. Evans had been forwarded to the Zagreb office, and from there to the elders. An elder in the Bramhall church had felt he was preparing his 14-year-old daughter for sex. Lloyd had very sexually explicit discussions with this girl and tried to use his position as elder to influence her. I relayed the information I had on him sexting a 14-year-old girl and his wife finding out he did not know about that. That was all my involvement with that matter, though I noticed on the John Cedars channel that he said someone from Zagreb would be in his judicial committee. Lloyd Evans resigned as a Jehovah's Witness in 2013. He stated it was for apostasy against Jehovah's Witnesses, and I have no reason to doubt that was one of the reasons. What happened in the judicial committee meeting only Lloyd and 3 Jehovah's Witness elders knew. For my part, I know that he was preparing 14-year-old girls for sex in the UK. This is my testimony.
Now, I found it to be a very interesting letter. If you look at the screen, though, I want to point out a few things to you. Notice that if you look at the PDF properties, it says that this file name was Marco's statement and the date was 2/9/2022, right? It has no title, but look at the author. It says the author of the document is someone by the name of Kim Brooks, not Marco. So evidently whoever made this document was Kim, or used a person by the name of Kim Brooks' Microsoft account or perhaps their computer. So it might be that Kim Brooks has the answers. So now we go back to Lloyd's letter, and notice he said, there is no Becca. Well, what is this whole Becca story about? Take a few minutes to look at the email screenshots. These are alleged screenshots between someone named James Everston and Becca. Now, I just want to warn you to proceed in viewing the screenshots at your own risk, because the conversation depicts a deplorable conversation between an adult and a 14-year-old child. And again, this is alleged. I want to make sure I give credit here. The information came from Twitter, the Vast Apostate Hour, some downloads that they had available to the public. In the screenshots, there was an email listed, and according to Google, that email address was recently closed or shut down, deleted. On February the 15th, Kim Silvio posted this statement on her Twitter.
It is Tuesday, the 15th of February 2022. The sun is up, and yet it seems dark and gloomy. Today is a day that I never imagined would need to occur. Today the XJW community have done what we have continually asked the Watchtower organization to do. We cannot advocate for the reporting of child sexual abuse to the authorities. We cannot advocate for the reporting of child sexual abuse within the Watchtower organization. It is clear statement to the organization that we have integrity and will not conduct ourselves as they do. I trust that the authorities will investigate the reported matter with the diligence that such matter deserve. I have no knowledge of the allegation until after I had issued my previous statement regarding Lloyd Evans. I have no doubt that the allegations will generate a wide range of emotion within the community. If these emotions become overwhelming, and you cannot manage these emotions on your own, please reach out to a medical professional for support. There are many support networks available that you may wish to reach out to. If find that you have this need, if you are in danger or significant distress, please consider attending an emergency care facility. It is my opinion that issuing statements confirming or denying the validity of an alleged crime is irresponsible and should not occur. To do so usurps the position of the statutory authorities. For this reason, I will not be commenting as to whether I believe these allegations to be true or not. The evidence has been provided to the authorities, and it is their opinion that should be sought by the community. Kim Silvio.
So these matters are being sorted out by the police officers who are trained to investigate all of these type of claims. In conclusion, I want to share Lloyd Evans' statement, his recent statement. He says, "This email chain is totally bogus and is being forwarded to my legal team. It's chilling to consider the lengths to which people are going to end my work. To think that someone sat down at a computer to write this to frame me as a pedophile is beyond sickening." On this channel, we are against child abuse in every form. It is our endeavor to hold anyone accountable for such terrible acts. We stand together as one unit to combat these things, but we also stand together as a unit to combat those who make up lies on others just to promote themselves. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the material.